Greetings, nerds. This is Scene to Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. Happy National Superhero Day to you.
Really?
Yeah. It just happened. It's one of those Twitter trends that that got created, the Twitter holiday. But April 28th is National Superheroes Day.
Seems made up.
The social media holiday. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
But
I think holiday every day, apparently.
Yeah, true. But I figured I would start with that instead of asking you, have you been following the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial at all?
I haven't been following it. I've seen like clips come up, but I haven't been following it. I mean, it's sad. My dad, I think, has watched more of it than I have.
Yeah, I it's been one of those things that I've seen it like trend, and I have like seen. I haven't like followed it closely, so to even begin to have like an educated opinion on it. But I just know that it seems that public opinion, at least from the socials, seems to be tilted more towards Johnny Depp these days.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that, and I'm just gonna wait for the made-for-TV movie to come out in about 5 years about the whole thing, so that I understand what happened.
Yeah.
It's one of those things you're just like, I know what's going on.
Yeah.
But it's Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, so
yeah.
You're like, every now and then you'll get a little curious and maybe get a drop of information, and then you're like, yeah, that was enough. All right, moving on.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much where I'm at with this thing at this point. I think that's where I am. So, but enough about that.
Yeah, speaking about National Superhero Day, CinemaCon has been occurring, and we got a lot of news about various comic book related projects, including the biggest yeah, I knew that before we even saw the first movie. The Batman 2 has been announced.
Yep.
And then let the speculation begin about the Joker.
The Joker, Mr. Freeze.
The non-end credit scene that had arguably some of the bigger discussions in the movie itself.
Yeah. Hell, I've been watching. It's funny. No real details were given about the Batman 2, other than that it was greenlit and Pattinson and Matt Reeves are coming back. But then I've seen like hour-long like YouTube videos like created over a basically a 10-second announcement.
Let's be honest, they probably had already prepared those videos to just go out as soon as it was confirmed, because and speculate all you want, but you're not the writer, and so it's a very dangerous game to speculate, because then you get your hopes up and then expectations are not met, and I don't want to know a thing about it. I don't want to see a single frame of it. I probably will, but whatever.
I know. Yeah, that happened to me earlier this evening with Doctor Strange. But I know there was a lot of other DC content, so let's stick to that, and then we can jump over to the Marvel universe.
I have not watched that.
Yeah, don't.
I haven't watched any of this. Like the amount of footage, and I'm like, no, I didn't watch any of it. I did hear about the Flash footage that was released.
Well, all the CinemaCon stuff. Here's the thing: none of it was, this is the trade show. This is the trade association for all the movie theaters. So everything that we have here is just press reports of what was shown in the room with most of this content. So you're going to.
I'm just surprised at this point that they're not renaming the Flash movie to be the Batman Michael Keaton.
Yeah, Batman. Yeah, for real. Yeah, Batman present day. Yeah,
that's all I heard was Michael Keaton. Ezra who? Ezra who?
Yeah. Michael Keaton. Michael Shannon is. I guess Zod is back, and as well that was also part of the test teaser footage that was shown during CinemaCon, and I guess the famous lines, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts."
Oh, man.
Yeah.
What else? There was a Shazam and Aquaman trailer.
Yep.
Separately, not together. Separately, not together. They are separate projects.
Yeah.
And Aquaman 2 is not. Amber Heard isn't going to be in that, right?
Oh, she's in it.
She's in it.
She's in it for us. Yeah, there's a whole petition that's going around right now trying to. I think it's gotten like 9 million signatures or some crazy number of people wanting her scenes to be reshot and recast.
Yeah. It wouldn't be a DC project without a scandal.
Yeah, at this juncture, I guess DC's just taking the approach. If the film's in the can, we're just going to go ahead and just roll with it. But if it's been announced, so if you're going to do any bad behavior, do it after your film is done, because if you do it beforehand, then you probably will get removed, like Johnny Depp did with Fantastic Beasts.
Right. Yeah. And then on the other hand, on the opposite coin, if it's a DC project featuring The Rock, it's just never going to get released.
So far, I guess it's coming out October 21st. That's the current date. And The Rock did show up.
This year?
Of this year, yes.
Okay. I could have sworn he told me it was a different year. But
it was this year. It was originally going to be in July. That's what it was. Mm-hmm. But actually, it got the DC Super Pets that The Rock is also in got slated for that July 29 date, and then Black Adam got moved back to October 21st.
Oh, Black Adam. I know you're going to happen. Yep. It's just...
Yeah.
I don't know at this point. I'm in a bit of comic book overload, like content. It's a lot. And we'll get into that a little bit later with some of the shows that we're going to be discussing. Yeah. And then, of course, amidst all of the superhero stuff, we have the long-awaited Florence Pugh, Harry Styles, Olivia Wilde directing movie, Don't Worry, Darling, which I hunted for that trailer.
Yeah, it's not, again.
I wanted to see that.
Yeah.
But no trailer I find it funny that what came out of that whole thing was information about Jason Sudeikis giving Olivia papers.
Did you steal my notes? Because that was the thing. That was I got more about that than I did. I mean, within the only thing I guess they did release publicly was the still shot from the trailer. But yeah,
good on her for not making like a scene and just being like, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Moving on to my movie, which features my boo, and like one of the Harry Styles is just something else. So
one of the hottest actresses today as far as Florence Pugh. Yeah, so
I haven't been in that many though. It's so weird. Is that like he's known for being Harry Styles, the singer, former One Direction person, and then he's done one movie?
Yeah, no, he hasn't, but yeah, exactly. It's like he had the cameo bit at the end of like the Eternals.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, it seems like he's the flavor of the month right now.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Speaking about flavors of the month, Avatar 2, another movie that has been announced for like half of my lifespan, has received a title. That's progress. The Way of Water.
Yeah, it's The Way of Water. And so speaking of trailers, the trailer that was shown at CinemaCon, well, they did show some footage at CinemaCon, and they will be dropping a trailer that will accompany Doctor Strange next week. So and it'll be
The Way of Water.
Yeah. Okay. So that'll be the first trailer. The official trailer will drop. Will go along with Doctor Strange, since they're both Disney properties, and then it will then be released 1 week after that. So I guess the following Thursday, Friday. But of course, it'll get pirated, so we'll see it before then. But
you've already seen Doctor Strange, right? Because you watched the latest trailer.
I didn't watch it. No, I did not. The only thing I saw was some news trending on Twitter, and I have gone on trailer blackout with Doctor Strange since the last long one they had. So I have stayed away from that as best I can.
I have too, to the point where last week when you mentioned Doctor Strange like is coming soon, I'm like, really? and you're gonna have to remind me, when does it premiere?
Next week. Like, I got my I bought my tickets. I'm going Saturday night.
Will, you live in a different world than I do with the ticket pre-buy. Like, I have no need for that. No need, sir.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will remember to go and watch it eventually.
Yeah. All I will say is I'm just glad I watched What If. I just feel like, just from the trailers that I have seen.
Oh yeah.
I think we're going to lean heavily into that.
Yeah. What If, WandaVision, the Doctor Strange, the momentum, the buildup is payoff for those shows that we've been watching for the last year.
Yeah.
Minus Moon Knight, and we'll get to that in just a bit. And a few other things to talk about.
I was going to say, the only other thing as far as with Disney and Marvel was the at least the MCU side of Marvel. I guess they're having a big retreat to plan out the next 10 years of the MCU. He was actually at CinemaCon as well, and when they showed the footage for Doctor Strange, and they actually showed like the first 15 minutes of the film apparently at CinemaCon. But yeah, he did announce that they'll be doing that here. First time they've actually had a retreat in like 3 years, but they're planning out the next 10 years of the MCU.
Well, you know what? To be a fly on that room.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm just fascinated. Like, I hope they take cameras with them so that they can release that 10 years from now.
Yeah.
You know, like, just to watch the creative experience it would just be fascinating.
It would be. It would be. I mean, just thinking about those featurettes that they do now with the assembled and some of the behind the scenes storyboards and things that goes into production now. But you're right. I hope that I'm looking forward to the Marvel's assembled 10 years from now, like you said.
Marvel assembles, and we do not want anything from DC though. I don't want to know what goes on.
No, it's just the PR team, just with the face palm, like, okay, who messed up this week?
Seriously. Hopefully scandal does not occur with Batgirl, which may be released in theaters despite it being announced that it's going to go directly to HBO Max. So there might be some hope that we see the Batgirl on the big screen as well. I would still opt to watch it on HBO. Yep. Thank you.
Michael Keaton's in that one. Michael Keaton's in that one too. So yeah,
Keaton. Oh, Keaton. What else? Star Wars Tales of the Jedi will be an anthology series.
Yeah. So this was some news that somehow like leaked to Reddit that was supposed to be announced at Star Wars Celebration in May, which is May 28th. But the news got out, and then Lucasfilm did confirm that this is going to be an anthology series that's animated, and but that's all the details they've given at this point. So, but since it's an anthology, we'll probably see Luke Skywalker again.
Oh, I was gonna already make the comment, like, Grogu is gonna show up and steal the show because that's what he does.
Well, yeah, maybe you know what? Oh, you know what? That's what they'll do. They'll do a standalone, because these will all be standalone stories. So they'll do one with Grogu and Mando. And like
no, even the standalone stories, like a random character who nobody cares about, like they'll just show up in episode 3 and then suddenly it's Grogu and Mando's story, and you're like, why? Man, yeah, PTSD, guys. This is what watching these shows will do to you. You get PTSD because you get screwed over. Because Will makes you watch things. I was gonna ask you, when does Obi-Wan come out?
Well, originally it was going to be May 25th, but they slid it back to May 27th, and just 2 days. Yeah, I know, crazy, right? But the other thing is too, and they're going to be dropping 2 episodes instead of just 1.
Yes. I love that. I love that so much. I like the bigger drop at the beginning, and I'm so pissed off that they did not do that with We Own This City.
Yes.
I'm so mad.
Nice segue. I know. I watched it before you, and I like soon as I like finished the episode, I was like, have you seen this yet? Because I just could not wait to talk to you about that show.
It is so, I didn't immediately watch it. I randomly watched it in the morning. It's not a morning show.
No, it's not.
But I watched it when I wanted to watch it. I sat down, fully focused on it. Did I understand absolutely everything that was going on? No, because they played with time so much with it. And there's so many characters. And of course, the draw for a lot of viewers, I believe, will be John Bernthal. I was surprised by how little screen time he actually had in the first episode.
Yeah.
Especially considering how it begins.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But the scene at the end, give this man an Emmy, that look to the camera, that is why you cast him. That is why you cast him.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I love the way that this is truly a series where you do have to focus, because they are like you said, they are jumping around in time periods as far as telling what was happening with the Baltimore Police Department. And it's like post Freddie Gray, which was a pretty well-known case of police brutality where person, he was handcuffed in the back of the police van, and between the time he was arrested and the time he was discovered and stuff, things happened to him to the point, and so you got that. You have it's chronicling the guns task force that John Bernthal's character is like leading, and that speech, you're right, that he gives at the beginning of the show, and it was just like, damn. But then it does time jumps where we see him when he was a beat cop, and walking the streets of Baltimore, and then you have these other characters like in another town, in another city, where they're like looking at investigating various drug dealers, and then you got this other group that apparently are like working with the FBI. I mean, it's just like so many different things going on, but they have this common thread in that obviously the Baltimore Police Department and what was going on with this particular task force. So I can't wait for episode 2 Monday.
Yeah, I was really surprised by how much time we spent with the other detective who was not in the Baltimore PD. And I like that kind of bait and shift. And then I love to see that actress from Lovecraft's Country.
Is she playing the U.S. attorney?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. She was great in Lovecraft Country. And so to see her in this role, very different role. But I like her presence. It fits, it works. And it amazes me how this could be so procedural, so boring, such a documentary kind of feel to it. But it's interesting because of they give little exposition, and yet they jump time periods, jump locations. And so at the end of it, when you realize what's happening, you're just like, oh, okay. So we're telling this story backwards, forwards, and a bit sideways.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And it all works. It all works. I mean, it's just
yeah. You just and I I saw the trailer a shit ton of times. But the episode itself grabbed me. I was not thinking about the trailer. So I wasn't playing the, oh, when is this going to happen? When's this going to happen? So it felt like 75% of that episode I did not see in the trailer. So I appreciate that as well.
Exactly. Yep. Same.
Oh man. Okay. Like I would love to do a deep dive on We Own the City. Granted, I watched it a few days ago and don't really remember a whole lot, but
no. I was going to. We produce it real time while we're recording, but I was going to suggest that we definitely add that to our weekly lineups, because I think it's a show worth spending some time on.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to talk about it, since it's going to drag itself out over the course of 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I want to binge it so bad. Yeah. But it's also, we haven't had a show like this in a while. And it's a good change of pace, because with everything else, like we had all of our CW shows come back this week. I did watch them all.
I did too.
Flash.
Same here. I fell asleep on the Flash, so I got to finish up the last 15 minutes of it. But yeah.
No, you don't. You really don't. You really don't. But to have We Own the City, like, just reminds you, oh, okay, this is what I've been missing. Seen a show like this to really help ground my overall viewing or content of the week, content consumption. Because I don't even know where to start. Like, where do you want to start? Which show do you want to start with?
Let's start with Superman and Lois. They've been gone from us for 3 weeks. I did enjoy the episode this week, I have to say.
Structurally, it was fascinating how they did it. I didn't expect it.
Yeah.
Like the structure was done really well. I am mad because the freaking CW breaks.
Yeah,
I would have loved to have seen the episode that occurred right before this one, and this one like back to back.
Yeah, unfortunately, this we can't really fault the CW with this one. This was a COVID casualty. Is the reason why they ended up having to do that 3 weeks.
I'll always fault the CW. Thank you for. I will always fault them, and it was it's just that's really the only thing that hindered the episode for me. Is I think I would have had more momentum going into it had those 2 episodes aired back to back.
Yeah, I would agree. But to come back, it was a strong episode to come back on, because I love the transition, how they went from where we did leave off, and we followed Clark to his voyage to the Bizarro world, and just everything from the going through the loop, and then seeing the remnants of Ali Allison's followers who did not make it through, and then we cut to the the intro when they do the reverse logo, which I want to say, didn't they do that like one of with Krypton or something? With I don't know, or some I've seen that done in another show. I can't remember what show, but I love the way that they're like, okay, we really are going to go to another world, and they flip the logo, and we see Clark, he comes across Anderson, and I
have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question. Okay. I did not understand though what was going on with Bizarro Clark to make him, by the end of it, look like a zombie.
He was taking Krypton. Or Kryptonite. Okay.
So he was taking Kryptonite, but as like a power booster, and it was kind of destroying him.
That's exactly it. Yeah, because remember that. Yeah, because even Lois called him out on it, and he's like, "I got to be better." So, Yeah,
I guess that's kind of like a parallel to what's currently going on in normal Smallville with Jonathan taking kryptonite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what I really enjoyed about this episode. It was like, all the things, they're taking various elements from the other aspects in our universe, and in the Bizarro universe, grafting them on to Clark, for example. And the other thing that I got when I was watching the episode was a lot of the boys vibe. Not minus the violence and the profanity, but just the themes as far as like the Superman of the Bizarro world and Jonathan, the whole celebrity thing.
Yeah.
I really got, that was really where I got the boys vibe, and then the Homelander aspects of it. Whenever, as he was like losing his, as he was taking the kryptonite and losing his grip on things, especially given how he was trying to deal with Jonathan, and as Jonathan was getting his powers and stuff. Those were the kind of vibes that I kind of picked up from an episode, which I thought were really good. He was like Homelander light.
Yeah. I can totally understand why you would go there. I think I was just distracted by it felt, I honestly wish this had been two episodes. Mm-hmm. Because they really did rush this whole Jonathan thing to the point where I couldn't really buy the motivations. Like I should care about the Bizarro Kent family, but for some reason it all felt really rushed, really forced. And so I didn't really understand. I understood, honestly, more about Lucy and why she went to Allie than like this 15-year-old kid who suddenly has a model girlfriend and then takes him to a nightclub where I'm like, everybody knows who you are, so they know you. It's what?
Yeah. I guess they were trying to hype up the motivations and intentions was, I guess, with Bizarro Clark getting so wrapped up in the celebrity and
we didn't see that at all. Like we immediately we just saw the limousine pull up and them get out and him be a celebrity, but we didn't see like a progression of how that fame changed him or took him away from his boys. And I was also kind of annoyed, surprisingly, by just what they did with Jordan.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think they tried to. That's true about Jordan, but I think they tried to establish it a little bit with where he was so wrapped up in celebrity, and then it was Jonathan who actually, when he had his moment of coming out as having superpowers to the public. With the
I know that they tried to do it.
But I agree with you. It was too fast.
And it's just, we've made comments in the past about how this is a very maternal show. Mm-hmm. And in other shows, it's very paternal. Mm-hmm. This episode, freaking brotherly love. The brothers are all over the place, whether they're Bizarro brothers, whether they're Bizarro Kal-El brothers, like it's funny to see what's Clark's brother's name. I always forget it.
Talro. Yeah, it was like the relationship. That was one of the highlights of the episode for me, seeing how the Talro and Clark, I guess what could have been, because in the Earth normal Clark universe, they were estranged, and was especially the whole rivalry with Edge and all that. But then when we get in the Bizarro world, I mean, they were like talking about Atlanta and the wedding and all that. They were just doing sibling things, and so. I like the way they set that particular part up.
Yeah. definitely.
Yeah. But yeah. But I thought it was, I mean, like I said, I thought it was, it reminded, of the, I guess, middle brow fare as far as the tiers of superhero shows. I mean, it definitely, again, it reminded me of like how the show is kind of out of place on the CW. Even though I did like Naomi this week, and I know I think I won't get too deep into that, but yeah, like I said, I thought it was a strong return, and the resolution that they had with Anderson and normal Clark, I thought was good. But one of the things you also noted that you mentioned with Lucy and Jonathan, how Lucy's motivation seemed a lot more believable than Jonathan's. And I think you're right. If they had given us maybe one more episode of just showing that how Clark was away and basically like what we saw a lot in season 1 when Clark was talking to Jonathan and Jordan about why they had to keep the secret as far as the powers and that challenge of being a superhero. And I guess maybe that was what they maybe allowed us, we had that assumption, but then they just showed how things went to Bizarro Clark's head, like Homelander, and he was looking at the celebrity aspects of being a superhero, which I wish I agreed. I wish they explored that a little bit more.
Yeah, I do like the one thing that they did right with Jonathan is they really did a good job of, is he good or is he bad? Is he good or is he bad? Throughout the episode. Yeah. So they did a good job with that. And it'll be it was a good setup for next week's episode.
For sure.
All right. So yeah, we got Picard and the board game battle. Hide and seek.
Yep.
Now, were we supposed to take a shot every time the characters said hide and seek throughout the episode? Every time?
Every time, yeah. That's definitely like an in-universe thing that I call back to Picard whenever he was maybe it was Insurrection that he used that hide and seek. He mentioned he played that game with his mother in one of the movies back whenever they were doing the feature films for the Next Generation crew. But yeah, it wasn't quite level up, but it was definitely there.
Yeah, very strong at the beginning. That's all I could hear. Every other line, I'm like, okay, we get it. We understand what this episode is called. Got it.
Yeah.
I think I would have liked this more because we still get the same pairings that we have had all season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they haven't done anything for me all season, and I'm just like, okay, so that's kind of where I'm like, okay, now we're just wash, rinse, repeat right now, and it's like, okay, you have a big crew. Why aren't you really using the crew to create more complex storytelling instead everyone's been paired up so freaking much?
I watched the episode right before we recorded with my wife. One of the things when we were talking about it, I share with her, and I'll share with you and everyone who's listening. I felt they really could have trimmed at least probably 2 episodes from the season, maybe more. I know, because to your point, there was a lot of like wash, rinse, repeat.
Yep.
And so the things that they did focus on this episode with going back and forth to when we had the episode where we went to Picard's mind with his father, we got the payoff this week for understanding why he, why what was so relevant about all those memories and stuff. So we finally did get some payoff. We finally did get some resolution. I don't payoff is maybe not the right word, given that we learned that Picard's mother, spoiler alert, committed suicide. But at least I felt now we get it. Now we see why these things are so important to set up. But at the same time, like to your point, some of the stuff, like for example, they could have tightened up things with Soong as far as Corey. I mean, they drug that out way longer than it needed to be. I think Rafi, the whole thing, Rafi and Seven, and coming to terms, they just kind of squandered them for like mid-season, and then we finally get there. Now they're back at the forefront again. So I think if they had the whole episode where they like found Renee in the gala. Mm-hmm. I mean, that episode was only like, I think 25, it only was like maybe 30 some odd minutes. I mean, it was almost like, it would have been better off if y'all just like went ahead and just had those scenes, just extend an episode out to a full hour instead of just doing it for 45 minutes. Because I mean, really that episode could have really been done in like 15 minutes if you had taken out some of the extra stuff with Agnes. So I mean, there's different places where they definitely could have tightened the season up. That I think it's made it like harder to like keep the momentum because of the pacing issues.
Yeah, there's been a lot of pacing issues, and I don't know. I feel as though that this season started off really strong, and then mm-hmm. really quickly, just the moment they landed on Earth.
yeah, because it was so strong the first two. But yeah, you're right.
Really, guys? We're just gonna sit here. I was listening to a podcast, and one of them is a Trekkie, and they were saying that how they haven't really enjoyed Picard too much because a good Trek show will feature a crew and they'll be on a ship in space. That's probably what's missing right now.
or a space station, Deep Space Nine, which is by far probably the best. If hour for hour, Deep Space Nine is to me the best Star Trek series that there is.
Right, and you're not the first person to tell me that.
Yeah.
So, it's just that I don't know what we were talking about last week in terms of Picard and how they've spent this season has felt more revolved around him and this traumatic experience, but it's also like, dude, you've been a main character in this universe for far too long for this to be a new thing, a big revelation. Yeah. What's happening here?
Exactly, and I mentioned it before, and I'll mention now, especially with we finally do find out the truth about Picard and his mother, and basically they have to rethink everything I've thought about this character now, and they do it in the penultimate episode of the second season, where we find out that his mother committed suicide. I mean, that's after 150 some odd shows and movies, you drop this on us?
Yeah, well, we'll wait until next week, because not only did his mother commit suicide, but Q is an alter ego that he transforms himself into because of that traumatic experience.
Oh, nice. Before we do that is the traumatic. Yeah, before we move to that alter ego.
I'm not trying to move to it. I'm just saying, I think that I did get a bit overwhelmed, or not overwhelmed, but just like watch, rinse, repeat, having watched Moon Knight and this episode, and I'm like, okay, boys and their moms.
Oh yeah, I actually I did. I was like, through line for the two main topics for the week this week was definitely mothers and sons and trauma, because because they have that. And the only other one last thing before we do move to Moon Knight, I was saying, I mentioned this before, and I think now that I know what truly did happen to Picard's mother, that I think they really, really, really missed the boat. If they're gonna go there, they needed to like also add in here, and I mentioned this before, and so this will probably sound familiar to you, but they really needed to have his brother a part of this, because when we were introduced to Robert after Picard was abducted by the Borg, and then he went back home to Labar to recuperate from that experience right after that, and when you see their relationship in that episode, I mean, now when I think about that episode, I mean, the reason why, all this, prior to the second season of Picard, it just seemed like it was just intense jealousy. Picard's a famous starship captain, et cetera, et cetera. But to me now, it's like, I guess Robert blames Jean-Luc for the death of their mother because of what we learned in this episode. So,
well, here's the sad thing, and what you're really getting at is that as someone who does not know the history of Star Trek whatsoever, watching this season of Picard, I would think Picard's an only child.
Yeah, and that's and that's
yeah,
and that's a disservice to that character. I mean, I think, and that's where I said they really missed a big opportunity there, because that, for fans like me, I'm like, oh, because you're rewriting things and giving us information, deep, life-altering information about a character that I have known for many, many years, and you miss the most obvious point of when you're when you built up this character and explaining all his relationships. So yeah, you explain like why he doesn't have romantic attachments and stuff, but now it sheds a whole different light on his history, and also for someone who is not steeped in the lore, the whole line about when Agnes Borg, Queen Combo tells Seven to tell Picard, you can only, you got to save the mission. One Renee must live and one Renee must die. That line won't hit the same way. You'll probably get the different interpretation, because when I heard that line, I immediately thought about Picard's nephew, Renee, who Picard's brother Robert and his son Rene died tragically in a fire in the first feature film. We learned in the first feature film with the Next Generation cast in Star Trek Generations. So when I hear that line in this episode this week, that's where my mind goes. But if you don't know that history, then you're just thinking about the Renee that you just met in this series. Yeah.
I was also thinking, like, what are they gonna bring Allie Alston over?
Yeah.
I was also just thinking, okay, end of the episode, got it.
Yeah. But I mean, it just doesn't hit. I mean, it hits me, and I guess that's their way of saying, well, that's how we acknowledge his brother for you fans who've been streaming about it. But for me, it's just like, I think they may have mentioned him maybe one at a time, but at least they could have said, where was Robert when all this stuff was going down?
Yeah, well, I mean, only one show can do the brother reveal at a time.
True.
The brother reveal, the thing that has come out of Moon Knight, that's big debate about did it work, did it not work, is should they have revealed the third personality?
Yeah. I thought they were.
Huh?
I said I thought they were going. When I was watching the episode, I thought we were going to get Jake Lockley as to help balance out the hearts.
I'm very curious of how they'll explain it away.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense to me. Like looking back on that episode, even while watching it, I'm just like, okay, so when are we going to get the third identity? Like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, I think we may have briefly gotten it.
Right. That's what everyone's saying.
Yeah, and I did notice that, and even before I heard other people talk about it, I did notice that there was something different it went while I was watching it real time. So we did, because we got it last week, I think, with the sarcophagus shaking. In every episode, we get beats of it, and so it was there. And then I think there was a callback to the taxi as well, because I know in the comics, I think the Jake, that was his. At least whenever Mark would wear disguises, that was the disguise that he would wear before they evolved the story into the dystociative identity. That was the persona that he would dress up as Jake and drive taxi cabs.
Yeah. My other issue with this episode is, I'm sorry, Doom Patrol set the bar real high for this in season 1, especially with Jane and their revelation. The episode they did that informs the viewers of how the disorder started. Like, this was good.
Yeah.
I mean, Oscar Isaac, please. But it felt a bit, dare I say it, melodramatic. like it's sad. And then to your point, always talking about how Superman and Lois should be on HBO Max. I can only imagine how dark this could have been if it had been on HBO Max and not Disney Plus. Like, and I'm not a person who, I don't want to see gore or anything. I don't want to see like a mother actually hurt her son. I'm just saying, like, again, pacing wise, it felt a bit weird to me. And I was thinking to myself, there's a line, I think he says it right before Steven takes over or emerges, and but he says, "You're not my mom." And so I was thinking to myself, why aren't they telling us that? Like, please explain that line to me, because if it makes more sense to me if she was not his biological mother, to have that big twist. But then again, everyone deals with grief their own way. I didn't really understand the father.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the episode is good. It's just hard for me to want to give it a big round of applause when I've already seen like Doom Patrol do it.
Doom Patrol do it. While we're here talking, and speaking of trauma, I thought about Mr. Robot.
Oh, you thought I could have sworn you were going to say Peacemaker.
That too, Peacemaker. Yeah. I mean, as far as recent example, yeah, Peacemaker is another one. But doing another callback where we had significant, at least with Peacemaker is, I guess. Well, and even with Mr. Robot, it was in Elliot's case, it was his father molesting him.
Yeah.
And then and obviously Augie just being a real piece of shit to Chris, and the abuse, and we saw that. So and thinking about Picard, and this seems to be the trauma and grief has always been a underlying thing with superhero genre. Absolutely. Because I mean that's usually been the motivation that has created the Batman or the Spider-Man or whatever. But now we're seeing it, but I think the difference is now we're seeing it in live action, and it's actually being the focal point of the stories. Because I know a lot of people, when they heard Moon Knight, especially for folks who are used to like MCU kind of things. I mean, we got a little taste of like this storytelling model with WandaVision, but they really dug into it. They really went into it all in with Moon Knight now, with this story of trauma and.
But one episode. And I was thinking about it, and I will be honest, I still prefer WandaVision's penultimate episode when when we do the history of all of her trauma. I honestly still remember liking that more than this episode of Moon Knight.
I agree. After that penultimate, I mean, what is grief but love? What is love but grief?
Yeah.
That endures or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean that I mean, you're right. Because whenever I finished watching episode Wednesday night, I sent you a message and I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. And I'm still very ambivalent about this episode. I mean, yes, it was well done. Again, can't fault anything about the acting. I mean, Oscar Isaac, Disney, submit the card for your consideration for an Emmy right now for him. I mean, this was the acting, everything, the cinematography, this episode, everything about structurally, it was a well put together episode. Even Torrent, the hippos CGI was like, I couldn't quibble with it, So
Oscar deserves a nomination for this episode alone. The director, I was really the editor through everything. I liked you felt like you were in a never-ending staircase.
Yeah.
And I really like that. But to go back to what you were getting at, it's, you don't want to criticize the episode because you know it good, but there's still something where I should have been almost in tears, and I never once was.
Yeah.
And there's something about the way they've developed these characters to where I don't know, it's just not impacting me the way I know it should be. And I honestly wish, like, if we had like 3 episodes with this kind of setup. I don't know.
Yeah, because I guess the way the series has unfolded, we get the initial sets up with Steven, and then we get the breadcrumbs of the third personality, and then and of course Mark and Moon Knight at the beginning, and then we get what's that?
It's just the adventure stories that get told in between all of this character work that I could care less about.
Yeah.
And when like the references that have been made to the previous episode, like Later Gators, the phone call and everything, all of that is so beautiful, but it's buried in 4 episodes of Mummy Returns?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it's you nailed it. It's very uneven.
Mm-hmm.
Because
it's weird to talk about a show where you and they honestly haven't had too much Moon Knight, but Mark the Adventurer, we've had a lot of that, and a lot of a very very Disney-esque type of melodramatic comic book action adventure storytelling play out amidst this really fascinating story that if we just had more of that, then maybe things would be hitting a lot differently.
Yeah, maybe. And and we did, and I think we would. And then, and I think just thinking ahead to next week, I mean, we did get a little bit of origin story, and I did like, I will say, one of the things that did resonate with me outside the Asylum as far as the show this week was when Mark was in Khonshu's temple, and how the Khonshu manipulation, how all that unfolded, especially when Mark was about to kill himself. And so that, just sort of seeing how he manipulated the dynamic and the situation, knowing that he saw in that construct, he was able to pick up the broken personalities within Mark, and then how he used that to his advantage to, like, be his champion on to fight for the people of the night and that kind of stuff. as far as like the Egyptianology and the mummy kind of, mythology stuff that was going on, that actually worked this week. And I think it just worked in a larger context of the episode. So, so I guess from a timing standpoint, yeah, it was probably good that they show the origin story this way when they were, as we talked about last week, when they were going to use Starette to to show that story as far as a way to get him back. And there's still, and I guess the other thing that what has kept me around with this series, one, beyond just that we talk about it every week, but also just as far as the curiosity that did have me when I was pondering this episode, the things that I liked about it, is how much of this is all in his head, all of it. How much is real, how much of it is not, and just trying to get the answer to that part of the puzzle it is intriguing. So that's I will say that is the one thing that they have done pretty well, especially that I guess that with the twist last week with the Asylum, and then this week's episode, it was like, okay, I got it. Hopefully, they will somehow reverse the not always sticking to landing MCU trend.
Oh, I did not go into next week thinking that will. No,
yeah.
Your expectations will be not met. I am very cautious about next week's episode because they got a lot to do in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
That's another thing, and I expressed this last week as well, is that I don't know how to get attached to the show because I don't really understand it in the sense of where it is in this universe, because it's been mentioned that no, this isn't connected to anything, and I'm like, okay, well then, why do I care?
I have heard some people talk about like the whole, like, I guess it's connected to the larger thing with the ancestral plane with Black Panther and how
I don't see them doing a Marvel property that isn't connected. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. It just doesn't. One more thing about Khonshu is during that scene, all I could think about was Aladdin. So I just thought about Aladdin, and I don't know, it was just like, whoa, okay. And I could have sworn I heard the same music in the background. I'm like, wow, this is Disney.
It's fair point.
But you got Oscar Isaac to do it. So
but you're right. I mean, I think that's the other thing too, and maybe that's just a success. And also one of the biggest drawbacks of the MCU now is that they've done such a great job of conditioning us to, like, how does this fit into the overall?
Yeah. I mean, that's what has kept us going for so long in this universe, in this world, is And that's where one of the big fallbacks of the DC is that there's always starts and goes and stops and arrests and scandals where you're like, well, how is this all functioning together? Directors are throwing out, like, that consistency and that stability and that connectivity.
And thinking about other franchises, I mean, again, like Star Wars and even James Bond. I mean, I think that continuity and of storytelling in Star Trek too. I mean, that is, if you're going to have something out there, try to tie it back, and so far, I mean, they've been very it's very tenuous as far as the connections to the larger MCU as of now. Now they have, I did read where right before we started recording that I think the finale is only going to be about 43 to 45 minutes.
A lot to do in a very short period of time.
WandaVision's by comparison was 51 minutes. Now, granted, I know the finale didn't quite stick the
20 minutes could have been shaved from that finale.
Yeah. But a lot to do. Yeah. But a lot to do in a short amount of time.
Yeah, but we'll be here. We'll watch it.
We will be here.
Talk about it, for better or for worse. On that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK on Twitter while it still exists.
You can find me on Twitter while it still exists at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter while it still exists at CNN Nerd, and friend us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram, scene_n_nerd, and our website, www.scenennerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.